Dark Crisis issue 7, Joshua Williamson writing, and there was 4 artists, so I didn't write them down, but I'll tell you what they are in a minute. And it's a slightly oversized issue, of course, so that's part of the reason. But obviously, they just need to get it out on time for everything coming after. So there is multiple artists, and we'll deal with that in a little second. So there's big things to talk about here and how they wrap up the story. There's some good ideas in here that I do quite like, but there's also some things in here that I think are quite underwhelming as a ending of an event. And some of these were kind of introduced last issue, where it started to feel a bit murky about what the real, what the real evil in this event was. Is it the Great Darkness? Is it just Pariah? This issue, I guess, kind of clears it up as it's mostly just Pariah, but there was a little bit of the Great Darkness in there or something.
Right, and then it was less Pariah and more Deathstroke at a certain point. So yeah, that was a little bit murky. It kind of, not that it left a complete bad taste in my mouth, but the event kind of as a whole, to use the Dark Crisis branding, I don't know, it seemed to lack like the heft of a proper crisis to me.
I think, to me, sadly, this event was kind of just Joshua Williamson through and through. There's good ideas, there's good issues, but ultimately when it's all done and you look at kind of the net gain of what we've done, it doesn't feel like it's actually, like, because what I liked in this issue, and this is kind of why it feels weird when they start explaining that the Great Darkness wasn't that involved, and it was mostly Pariah, and then Deathstroke kind of just sort of like, it was being taken over for a bit, but then he kind of agreed with it and sort of said, I'm going to help destroy everything.
Well, yeah, so, he let the darkness in, and then it's Deathstroke's own darkness that takes over.
Oh, yeah, but this is the problem I have, though, is that this issue, and I do like part of this, even though I think it makes no sense with everything else they say, is that part of this issue is that Nightwing is fighting the darkness, right? So Nightwing's been infected with it, and Deathstroke's in his head talking to him about, his past, and this idea that Dick Grayson might actually be strong enough to just fight it off when no one else has been is cool. It elevates Dick. We always think of him as the heart of the DCU anyway, so it's a really big moment for him. And I like those segments where it's like Dick fighting it and kind of like coming through it, but it doesn't make the greatest deal of sense when they start explaining exactly like what the darkness that's being used right now is, because it's not actually the Great Darkness. At least maybe it is by a small part. A small part of it is the Great Darkness.
Yeah, the way that I thought about it is the Great Darkness is so vast. This is just a piece of it that's gotten away.
It kind of made me roll my eyes as a comic book reader, though, because they're like, oh, that's just a small part of the Great Darkness. If we actually ever had to face the real full Great Darkness, it'd be even bigger. And okay, comic books, everything has to be bigger next time. I don't know.
Right, of course, but but at the same time, it's one of these things where it's like, Williamson wants his cake and eats it too, right? By saying like, oh, well, the Great Darkness is really, it's just nothing. It there's no intent there. It just is existing, So if it ever did, then yeah, we'd have trouble. But it's like, well, yeah, if all the water on the earth decided to, start flooding on its own, we'd have a lot of trouble too. But, it's really weird. Like, this felt almost like a epilogue to everything. And that's kind of how the event, like, it's had a weird structure. From the time that when this all started with what was the Infinite Frontier? Yeah. Right? Through the Infinite Frontier, through the death of the Justice League to this.
Oh, don't forget Justice Incarnate in the middle of all that.
And Justice Incarnate, yeah. Oh, it's felt very weird and almost like we were meant to believe that the Dark Army was this big, scary threat, and then they're just kind of there at the end. Like their teeth are taken out of them.
It's also kind of weird when I start back. I look back at these 7 issues now and how this fight that's been going on outside of the Hall of Justice has lasted like 4 of them.
Yeah.
I think it was the end of issue 2 or 3 that ended with like the fight coming to the Hall of Justice, and then this fight's just been happening since.
Yeah. So and there were some really, really big moments, like when Beast Boy gets shot, right?
Oh yeah, Superman, blocking Doomsday from hitting John. In this issue, I like the Dick stuff. I also, I think Black Adam has highs and lows in this. I think the idea that Black Adam is willing to share his power with all of the heroes to help fight the Great Darkness, that's actually kind of cool. It's a big moment of growth for him. But I also couldn't help but chuckle that the only reason why they're probably doing, or they wrote this in, is because he had a movie coming out, and there's even a people's eyebrow towards the end of the issue, and I couldn't help but feel like, I'm glad that Black Adam's getting this respect, and it feels like a big deal that he's doing this, but is this cynically only happening because you think, oh, this character might be bigger than he was before just because of the movie, so we're kind of like banking on that a little bit, and it basically it left me feeling like this won't matter that much in the long run because the movie has kind of came and went. It's not really going anywhere. So,
I do feel though that Black Adam is primed for a moment, just because we had that Winter book, I forget the name of it, right, where he was pretty central in that, and then he's had his own book by Priest, which this actually made me want to go back and catch up just to see what's going on there. So even if just in the comics we get an evolved Black Adam, so he's not, stuck in this constant, ruler of Kahndaq phase, then cool. But yeah, I thought the same thing. I was like, whoever the artist was there at the end, drawing the people's eyebrow, I thought was very funny, because I think like it's one of those things, like if you're looking for it, you'll see it. But if you were just reading, because I had to go back and go, did he just raise the people's eyebrow?
It's a weird thing. It kind of took me out of it. Like, I don't know if I don't know if your final issue of your big event book is the moment for that little sly, meta reference to the actor playing the character in the movie. Right. It's the same, because I enjoyed reading the issue well enough, and that most of the action flows quite well. Like I say, I like the character beat specifically for Dick and placing him as this important center, especially since the ending. Before you get to the epilogue, is Batman saying, we're not reforming the Justice League, there needs to be a change, and whatever that change is, Dick, you need to be the one leading it, because you did that, and Dick's like, okay, I've got some ideas, and it sort of leaves you in this whole, and I like that, because I was speaking to David, I was recording Collector's Cut with David the other day, and he'd already read this, and he said that the ending was, I think the way he put it was, that's what you're doing. And I got to this Dick moment, not realizing there was an epilogue yet, and went, what's wrong with that? I was like, that's a nice moment. What are you talking about? This is like probably the best moment in the issue so far. And then the epilogue, I agree with him. Yeah, no, I do too. It could have just ended. Yeah, it could have just ended with that, and I think I'd look back at this a lot better, because you're ending on that high. Yeah, it's an optimistic ending, but instead we get this tease for the next threat, which is like, okay, I get why you're doing it, but there's almost this problem with comic books sometimes that you get with the wrestling, and you get bizarrely with soap operas, because they all share one thing. There's one fundamental problem that all those mediums or types of storytelling share, is that they all never end. So there's always the next thing, and they have to in some way tease that. And I've said it before, wrestling could use an off season. I don't watch soaps, but I presume they probably would benefit from an off season. And comics, likewise, I think it'd be okay to end this on a hopeful note and not have to set up the next threat yet. You can do that in the regular books in a bit of time. There's no need to do it now. Yeah, 100%. And part of me, I put John's at fault for kind of that, because he would have those fun little teasers at the end of like Sinestro Corps. We'd get like, it almost would feel like a trailer for The Darkest Night. But this felt like it was just a tacked on ending. Yeah, it didn't even feel like a post credit or anything like that. And it's not even like it's like Snyder did this with his stuff as well. This has been a constant thing for a while. But this one, there's like a page that's kind of like, here's what's happening in action soon. Here's what's been happening in Batman, and then there's the Neza stuff with Robin in that page. And it's like, okay, you got the Council of Light, which correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the same sort of thing that was in Young Justice, the animated series, right? It's been forever since I've seen Young Justice, so I'm gonna take your word that if it's ringing a bell for you, I want to say that was the Council of Light in that was behind all the shady going ons. Anyway, so they're talking to someone who's sort of shrouded in darkness. We don't know who it is yet. It's someone saying they want to take the fight to the Justice League, sanction me to go after them, blah 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 blah. They say they reject it, but it's kind of a double swerve where it's like, oh. No, not all, we're rejecting it because at this point we think metahumans are too dangerous. You have to just eradicate metahumans in general for the world. And I'm like, okay, that's an interesting thing. The idea that like the government or powers behind the government are enlisting someone to actually kill like every metahuman, and that's what like it's going to be like an attempted genocide of metahumans. That's potentially an interesting plot that could be quite weighty and could have a lot of dark stuff in it. I've got to say, though, the reveal of the final page of who this is that's getting this permission made me groan. And it's not so much the central figure being Amanda Waller makes enough sense that I'm not necessarily groaning at her specifically, but it's her weird Suicide Squad that's standing behind her.
That's if it was just Waller and she goes, I know just the people, and then it left us guessing like, oh, who's this team she's going to...
Yeah, maybe she's going to build the ultimate Suicide Squad. But instead, I'm looking at this page and I'm like, we have Peacemaker and Lady Peacemaker. I don't know who that is. But
me either.
We've got some... Do we know who this Bat Super Joker character is?
No, but it feels like, remember in Wade's in the early where they did the composite, like the Green Lantern, Batman, Superman.
Oh, that's right.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, there's a Green Lantern ring as well. You're right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I got to this last page and I just went, huh. Like,
and there's one more, right? There's some creature behind.
Yeah, there's a big robot looking thing.
It looks like a robot Doomsday kind of deal. Yeah.
Honestly, this last page, I shit you not, is so like generic, teasing the next plotline with a group of villains sort of page, that it actually made this event feel smaller. The fact that this was teasing this at the end of it made Dark Crisis itself feel like a smaller deal, because the ending's been used to tease this.
Yeah, I would agree. And that's what I mean by, like, if they just ended it with the moment between Bruce and Dick and him talking about the light, and, you know, you took me into the cave and made me focus on the light, and now that's been my whole mission. And it ended there. And then this came up in like a month or two and some as a backup in something. Who knows? Whatever,
yeah.
Yeah, I think I would look back at Dark Crisis and go, okay, I get what the point of that was, that, you know, Nightwing is the focus of all hope, right? And he's kind of this is why we believe him to be the cornerstone of the DCU. The heart and soul, if you will.
Yeah.
This is just kind of like, yeah, but hey, what's this next thing? Look at this guy. He's scary, huh?
It made me roll my eyes. I did not like the epilogue at all. Yeah, the stuff with Dick where he's like, yeah, here's the candle you made me swear in with, and I did the candlelight vigil back at the start of the series because it was kind of an honor of you making me take the oath. And Batman snaps the candle and says, "F that shit. You're my light, Dick. You're the one who's kept me sane. You're the one who's done all this. It's not some oath. It's not some blah, blah, blah." Like, I was like, okay, all right. You know what? I can get into the father-son stuff with Batman and his Robins. I usually, I choke up for. I like it. It's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that, because in the meta context too, that's why they introduced Robin, was to keep Batman from being too dark. So here for Bruce to comment on that, it was like, yeah, I needed a partner to keep me focused on not becoming what I hated. And Dick to be that, and what he represents, he is the younger sibling, not the younger sibling. What's the word I'm looking for? I mean, his relationship with Superman is one of my favorite things, right? Because that's like Uncle Clark, but he looks up to him a little bit differently than he looks up to Bruce, right? It's like how you look up to a different family member versus your parents, because they're that positive force, and you don't have to look at them as this authority figure. And you could do that with a lot of people that Dick's interacted with. I mean, we've seen it in Nightwing, all the different people that have showed up to assist him with Bloodhaven. So,
it's kind of, like, that stuff was good. Like, some of these character beats are pretty solid. It sets up where a bunch of the characters are going. Like there's a 9-panel grid page where it's like, okay, the JSA are back to being the JSA, so they're going to like deal with stuff. The Titans have got the tower again. The what you call it, the Quintessence
are back
together, so that's going again. Roy and Diana are going to go look for Oliver. All this stuff.
Still not knowing what's going on with Ollie, right?
Like, that's one of the weird blunders of this whole series. Was his sacrifice moment. Like, it came out of nowhere so quickly that we just kind of went like, why does he have to sacrifice himself? I don't understand.
Right. And was that in an actual issue, or was that in one of the tie-ins? It had to have been in the actual issue, right?
I assume so, but it says something that we can't say definitively that it was.
Yeah. No. Oh, and then to find out that the Big Bang issue takes place after Dark Crisis. That was weird.
That was a little bit weird, yeah. It does it makes a bit more sense, admittedly, in hindsight, but like, that is a bit weird. Like, why not just release it later? I don't.
Right, and then after this, so the Anti-Monitor's like, now's my time. I'm gonna go start eating universes again. And it's just like, okay, I would understand if this as it was going on, but yeah,
Yeah, also,
Oh,
Deathstroke, after all this, is in a tank, looking kind of Darth Vader-esque without all his armor on. And someone, I don't know if we could tell from that sleeve who it is, but someone is turning off the medication that's helping with his pain, so he's just been tortured in this tank.
If I had to guess, it's his ex-wife, because that was their whole dynamic in Priest Run, is how much they hated each other.
Sure.
You know, but yeah, I did like this because it is some growth for Deathstroke, because what Williamson says to here is that he was gonna unleash the darkness because he was tired of losing his kids, right? And when you think about it, just recently, when he found out about Respawn being a clone of him, you know, and whatever. But then you think about all the kids he has lost with Grant, with Jericho at a certain point, Rose, you know. I do like this, that it left him. He did this out of a weird protective thing, which was kind of how he was against the Titans, right? Like, he was finishing the contract, and his whole thing against Nightwing was always like, I'm doing this to teach you a lesson that you shouldn't mess around with this stuff. So it felt very much in vibe with who he is. And then so at the end, where he's, you know, the darkness has burned out his serum, right? He's in this tank, like you said, like Darth Vader. And it's, you know, this new version of Deathstroke that I've never seen before, right? I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's looking pretty rough.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I did like, there's a scene where Barry and Hal are basically talking about how they were once the new kids when they took over for Alan and Jay, and how there's this new generation now under them that they're kind of like giving way to. And I like that little reminiscing moment. That was kind of sweet. And you know, so I say there's some character beats in here that I really like, but like the overall story does feel quite messy by the end, and the epilogue like teaser is just whatever. Like, you know, I don't know. You know, so the artists on this, because there was 4 of the bloody things. Jack Herbert, Daniel St. Pierre, Giuseppe Camincoli, Cam Smith, and sorry, it's 5, not 4, and Rafa Sandoval. You could tell it was shifting around quite a bit, and it's a shame because there is some pages that I'm like, oh, this is a really nice page here, and then it shifts and you're like, oh, now it's changed and it's not as good.
Because the styles clash a little bit. Pretty sure Sandoval did the epilogue, because that felt very Sandoval.
It makes sense that was like one of the artists was just on the epilogue.
So, but kind of just thrown together, kind of, you know, again, if it wasn't for the epilogue, I'd think about this a little bit better, because of those strong moments, you know, because of the Dick. And then again, it comes down to Dick versus Slade, right? Like, that is an epic rivalry.
I think I probably wouldn't rate it super highly, but I would be more positive in the sense that, okay, it's kind of the usual messy event thing that doesn't really feel like it's a big deal in the end, but it does have the good character piece to come out of it. So as long as you're okay and like you're not too jaded by these types of events, you can probably get something out of it. But the ending is kind of weird, and the epilogue is weird and just kind of deflating and kind of retroactively just makes everything feel smaller. I will say, you know, Black Adam giving his power to everyone. You get that nice 2-page spread where everyone's in Black Adam colors, which was a bit weird to me, like, because Mary Marvel's there, and I'm like, but she's already got Shazam power. Why is she being affected by this? That was a bit odd, but you know, whatever.
Probably because the artist just wanted to draw Mary Marvel there.
Probably, yeah. But I will say that, you know, if Billy did this or Mary did this, it'd be a cool moment, but it means a lot more for Black Adam to do it, because he's typically like, he looks down on them, he's against them, you know.
Well, there's that, and we know how he got his power, right? By killing his nephew. You know, who wouldn't share the power, so he takes it for himself.
It's a better character moment for him to share than it is for Billy or whoever. Yeah, because
that's who Billy's been from the beginning, right? That's how we get the Shazam family and Freddie and Mary originally. So, you know, I thought that was a really cool moment, because then it goes with the, you know, story of Black Adam being like, I can't run with these kids. These kids aren't gonna go far enough. And then so the fact is like, well, no, that was the point, and they are worthy, you know, and they need my help. So for him to finally, you know, give in to, you know, to do that, and the only way he can do that is to share his power, is a real cool thing.
Yeah, that's a good moment for him. So there's good moments, but god damn, that epilogue just makes everything feel smaller and just generic by default.
And again, the whole Great Darkness, which again, the red herring of it all is fine at the beginning, and reading through the tie-ins about, oh, the Great Darkness is just existing and it's being manipulated by Pariah. and then to find out that it's not this threat, but you get to the end and it's just Deathstroke because even Pariah's gone. It just kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah, I mean, we said that last issue, but yeah, this shifting to Deathstroke being the main villain is weird. It doesn't feel right. It feels like an odd shift. So
like had it been Deathstroke from the beginning, because of whatever had happened, it allowed the darkness to enter him and manipulate him. But yeah. Also, I did look up the Council of Light, and that 100% from Young Justice.
Okay, cool.
So
not crazy. Good.
No. So if you're aware of who's on the Council of Light on the show, I'm pretty sure that's going to be part of the reveals later.
Possibly. I mean, I only vaguely remember, but yeah. But there's a lot of episodes early in Young Justice season 1 that end with like a villain talking to this Council of Light. It's a very recurring theme for a while.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, in that case, I mean, what you rating Dark Crisis issue 7?
I'm gonna give it a 7.5.
I thought I can go that high.
It's fine.
Maybe. I think it would have been a 7 without the epilogue, because I would have been like, this is messy, it's weird that we've shifted villains, but I like enough of the character moments to give it a 7. I think with this epilogue, it has to go down at least another half point to 6.5. But I think I'm going to go even I'm going to say 6. I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay.
Even though there's some moments in it I really like, I think overall, the messiness, the shift of the villain, the fact that we're still in the same battlefield 4 issues later, when it feels like there's not a lot of distinct moments that feel like have progressed issue to issue, and then the fact that this epilogue just completely is like, eh? Eh?
Yeah, what?
That's my noise. Eh?